Hey guys, welcome back in to the newest edition of Bubblegum Sports Unfiltered. Um, we got a lot to cover tonight, Jeff. There's a lot going on right now. There's a couple new tidbits that came out with football today that we'll get to as well. But I want to start with baseball because this is something that I've heard nonstop from not all Brewers fans, but quite a few Brewers fans and other fans of smaller market teams on Twitter nonstop, is that they can't wait for a strike next year and that the Dodgers are ruining baseball. To me, it sounds a little bit, like sour grapes a little bit. What do you think? Do you think it's really a Dodgers problem, or is it really more of these fans are upset their own owners aren't really getting into the fray a little bit? What do you think?
Well, I don't think it's a Dodgers problem. I think it's a baseball problem. The Dodgers are following the rules. I mean, they're not breaking any rules. They're doing what they can. If you can buy a championship, buy a championship.
Yeah,
they're not doing anything wrong. The Brewers, on the other hand, their owner is content with getting into the playoffs and exiting after the first round. And for a lot of people, that might be fine. And, to be honest with you, I would really, obviously, you would like to see a championship and you'd like to see a World Series and you'd like to see them go deep into the playoffs. But the reality is, with the team that we have and the owner that we have, that's not going to happen. So basically, as a Brewer fan, I'm just happy that they're win every week. I'm also a Pirate fan. So, when I turn on a Pirates game, they lose 90% of the time. That's not fun to watch. At least with the Brewers, you tune in, you're going to see a good ball game. You're going to see action throughout the summer. It is the summer of fun. And that's just the stupidest thing he could have ever said. But, you get to see good baseball. You get to see him win. Yeah, they're not going to win with this owner. They're not going to win a championship with this owner. He's already almost basically come right out and said it. He's not interested in winning championships. He's just interested in providing summer fun. So, if that's the case, then that's what he's doing.
Yeah, I think that's what it comes down to for me. It's a fundamental misunderstanding by a lot of Brewers fans as far as what he's trying to do or what his goal is. And he's not alone in this, but his goal is not to win a World Series. I guarantee there is no point in time where he's in a board meeting and they're talking about, we're going to do whatever it takes to win it all. No, his goal is to be super competitive, to kind of be in the hunt, but they're not going to add a lot of pieces. I think the biggest issue with the Brewers not being able to win, it's not how much money they spend in the offseason. It's not how they draft and develop, because they're great at all those things. It's the inability or unwillingness to spend in July at the trade deadline. I think that alone is the reason the Brewers really are not going to be serious World Series contenders until that ever changes. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm really trying to think. Throughout my lifetime, there was only one time where they did. I mean, I think we've briefly talked about this on the channel with CC Sabathia trade. When they had all those young kids coming up with Fielder and Braun and Weeks and Corey Hart. And they went after it that year. Unfortunately, that was right before Ben Sheets went down again in the playoffs. So that kind of backfired. But you know what? You left that postseason thinking, man, we did everything we could. I think as a fan, most Brewers fans that year felt, hey, they did everything we could ask them to do. They started CC Sabathia on 3 days rest, pretty much the entire stretch. And they didn't win, but they haven't done it since then. And they've been right on the doorsteps of a true World Series contender. I'd say out of the last decade, 3 years, 3 of those years, I think they had a legit chance. And I always come back to the year the Braves won it. And the reason I do come back to that year is because at the trade deadline that year, the Brewers had a much better team than the Braves did. And you know what the Braves had to give up for their NLCS and World Series MVPs that year? Not a lot of money and draft picks that you will never, ever see in the big leagues. Why can't the Brewers do that? Fans, and I'm not talking about the whole fan base, but I think a lot of these people want to cry about the Dodgers. there's no reason that your team could not do this, and not just the Brewers, but any of these other people that keep whining about it. There is absolutely now they're not going to spend what the Dodgers spend. I think that's just never going to happen. But they could have gone out and did what the Braves did that year. There was nothing financially stopping them except a little bit of creativity. So I think the blame needs to be placed, first of all, at your own expectations, as a lot of you fans out there have the wrong expectation as far as what your team's trying to do. Stop blaming other people, number one. And number two is, even within the budgetary constraints your team has right now, there is an ability to compete for World Series if they truly wanted to. It's not a priority for them. They'd rather make an extra $10 million at the end of the year than to truly, push their margins, within, $10, $20 million. That's what I think. I don't know, Jeff, if you feel any differently about that.
And that's basically what it is. These owners, they don't, their income is not coming from these teams. So if they make money off the team, that's great. If they lose money, they can write that off for the most part. They get a lot of tax write-offs. It's a hobby. That's all they're in it for. And if their hobby is great and they're winning championships, that's all well and good. It depends on how seriously these owners want to take their hobby. Obviously, the Dodger ownership, the Yankee ownership, St. Louis, these teams that are constantly in it, they want to win. Unfortunately, the Brewers ownership is treating it just like a regular hobby that, hey, I don't want to lose any money. And if I hit, that's great. If I open up a pack of cards and I get a hit, great. That's awesome. Otherwise, I'm just going to sit back. I'm going to build my collection. And then when the time comes, I'm going to sell it for tons more than what I paid for it. Right now, I checked it. The Brewers are valued at $1.7 billion. So that's the value. He paid $300 million for it. So when he turns around to finally sell it, that value, he's got his money back. He doesn't care if he's winning championships along the way or not, because that value isn't going to go down.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. And that's this is nothing new. What's crazy to me is, because the Dodgers are spending so much money, all of a sudden these people that the only thing I can think of is they weren't baseball fans for very long. This is nothing new, guys and girls. This is absolutely nothing new. The New York Yankees 20 years ago were the Los Angeles Dodgers. This has been baseball forever and ever. Yeah.
You can even go back farther than that. You can go back to the Yankees of the 30s, 40s, 50s. They always had the best teams. They always had the most money. So, it's not like this new thing. And all of a sudden we got to, blame the Dodgers for everything. It's not a new thing. It's been going on since baseball's been baseball. And unless they come up with some sort of, salary cap, which probably is never going to happen, they're going to change some rules. There's probably going to be a lockout next year, or some sort of strike or something once that bargaining agreement goes, because something has to change at least a little bit. But the players, they don't want a salary cap. No, when they're can make over $1 billion. The only thing I think that they are going to settle on is no more deferred payments. I think they can work that out of the system, where you can't get a guy and pay him over the course of 75 years.
Yeah,
I think that would be the thing.
You're 100% right. A full-on salary cap, and I know of a Brewers fan in particular that just keeps. By the way, it's someone that hasn't supported the team whatsoever in the last 2 full seasons, but that's besides the point. Well, except for the 1 week they were in the playoffs. I'll take it back, which isn't a true fan if you're asking me. You support your team no matter what, if you're a true fan. Now, it's not realistic, like Jeff said. I don't think it's realistic. Stop the crap about a salary cap. Of course, the owners keep floating that out there in the media. Of course they do. Why wouldn't they? But like Jeff said, the players union has also come out and said there's absolutely we don't want to strike. We have no intention of striking. We don't want a cap. They've come out and very, very adamantly said there's not going to be a cap. I think you're going to see the biggest change this upcoming off season, but there's not. I just don't see any way that a cap's going to get done. What these two bargaining teams are doing right now, the two unions are throwing out the absolute most extreme case scenario. And what always happens, go back and look at history, they're going to meet somewhere, it might not be 50-50, but they're going to meet somewhere kind of in between those lines. To think of anything else just wouldn't make any sense. And Kurt says lockout, count on it. I would not be surprised, if they take something in the spring train, just lets the Cubs hold on to their trophy a little bit longer. So I'm okay with that. Now,
if they actually go on a strike, or if there's a lockout, they better be prepared, because it took them how long to get back after they pulled that crap in the 90s and 94. It took them a long time to get back.
Yeah, honestly, Jeff,
and
you can make
that crap now. If they pull that crap now, there's going to be a lot of fans that are just going to say, you know what? There's too much other stuff I can go do. I don't need baseball anymore. And they're going to lose it. And if there's a walkout, or if there's a strike, lockout, whatever you want to call it, that's going to severely damage baseball.
I don't think they truly actually recovered from that until very, very recent, like the last few years. Last few years is when you finally started to see attendance spike and get back to like positivity, like where it should be for baseball. I hope they don't lock out, and if they do, I hope it's a very quick one, because even when they did that for spring training a couple years ago, what was that for? Was that for COVID, or was that the last CBA? I don't remember, but that hurt the game a little bit too.
Yeah.
So
yeah, they just need to wake up. There's so much more attention that people are paying to other things, that baseball's going to slide. And if they pull this crap, it's really going to slide. Yeah. And there's a lot of other things to do. And they've done a great job. Baseball's done a great job of making this more fan friendly. They're speeding up the game. They're doing all sorts of great things. To have it, to lose all that just because they're going to do, this lockout or strike is idiotic. So they better come to terms with something. And the players have to realize it too. If there's no games, there's no billion-dollar contracts. So they need to meet the owners, and the owners need to meet the players, and they better hammer something out, or it's going to kill the game.
Now, if you guys love baseball as much as we do, make sure you take a look at the video that we just posted last night. We had a huge pack opening, had a couple of major hits that you aren't going to want to miss. It's right here on this same YouTube channel, Bubblegum Cards Episode 3. Take a look. I don't want to spoil anything, but the pack guru struck again. We'll just say that. It is what it is. So make sure you check that out. Enjoy it. Feedback has been really positive. We'll do some more of that stuff going forward. Now, I want to ask you a serious question, Jeff, because you're part of the reason you got promoted from intern to full-time host here is that you're a fan of certain teams, but you're pretty honest in what you say. You're not, you're not too biased like some fans, like maybe your son, Benjamin, is, for instance. But this is a serious question because it made me think of it this week when we were kind of texting back and forth. So Ryan Braun, who used to play for the Brewers, is already off the ballot in year one. He only got like 3.5%. So I think the only way he can get on is through the Veterans Committee, which there's no way that's going to happen. So he basically is out of the Hall of Fame voting. My question, because we have a lot of Brewers fans in the audience, and maybe they can answer it as well. The Brewers bring Ryan Braun back still like he's one of their Hall of Famers, like he's a Robin Yount level player. And I guess my question is, I don't quite understand it. Why does the organization and the fans still support Braun in the way that they do? Do you have a good answer for that? Because I'm genuinely confused.
Because he's one of the most recent, for better words, superstars. He's still accessible. They can still bring him around. Fans still like him. I mean, there's a lot of people that, I'm over. So this all happened, after the with the PEDs and all that crap. If this would have happened back in the 90s, during that whole thing where they had the big with
before
McGuire
it was quote unquote illegal, with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't have had a problem with it, and I still don't. I don't have any problem with any of those players from the 90s up until like 2002 doing any of that crap because the baseball needed it. They didn't enforce their own rules, and they let it slide, and they knew what was happening. So for all those people that are jamming on Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa and all that, you can go pound sand because that doesn't have anything to do with it. Ryan Braun, on the other hand, yeah, he got caught. He tried to cover it up. And then he came up and said, yeah, you know what, I was wrong. I was sorry. So that's kind of a crappy move on his part.
Yeah.
It wasn't a real apology, but I think because time has passed so far, people just tend to forget that. And they say, oh, look, a Brewer, he's a superstar. There's a lot of other players they could be bringing back, to do some of these things, but I don't know if they're not available or if they just don't want to be part of the Brewers or what. He just happens to be around because he's not doing anything. So.
Yeah, I think you're right. Part of it is there's a couple avenues here. Part of it is because the Brewers don't typically lock. I mean, Christian Yelich is maybe. I'm trying to think of any other players they locked up for an extended period of time where they got past like their arbitration years and stuff like that. As a Brewers fan, especially if they're younger kids, and when I say kids, 20s, 30s, whatever, they only have a couple of guys that they probably remember in their lifetime that they consider lifetime Brewers, right? There's not a whole lot of guys to pick from, and I think that's part of the reason they hang on to a guy like Ryan Braun as heavily as they do when maybe they probably shouldn't. Because to me, there's a huge gap between Robin Yount and Ryan Braun, and I'm not talking about what they did on the field. I'm talking about when you bring people back, to throw out first pitches or to kind of represent your organization like they did in the playoffs. He's just not the kind of guy you want doing that, in my opinion. Robin Yount, yeah, that's the kind of guy. Paul Molitor, even though he splits his time sometimes between the Twins and the Brewers as far as going back and doing stuff like that. But yeah, that's the kind of guy you want representing your organization. Ryan Braun, it's one thing to bring him back as part of a certain year celebration. Okay, he was on the team, whatever. But to bring him back specially like they have in the last couple of years, I think is sending a bad message, but I think it's because they don't have many to choose from. I honest to God think that is the reason.
The trouble is they keep going back to that 82 team, and there's only so many times you can bring out Molitor or Yount or these guys. Yeah. And it's the baseball version of the Bears. The Bears constantly go back to 85.
Because there's a huge gap. Yeah.
Constantly. So the Brewers are constantly going back to 82 because that's the most successful team. They made it to the World Series. So the most recent stuff, you can pull these guys, Braun, you can, Prince Fielder if he's available, but they didn't have the success and, the fan backing that Yount and Molitor and these guys had. So I think they're just bringing them around because they were the most recent. And, in a couple of years, you're going to see Yelich constantly coming back to do these things. And, it's just, but the Brewers don't have that long time player commitment because as soon as they get to that point, they're shipping the players out.
No, I think
so.
I think
right with Braun had spent his career in Milwaukee. That's why they keep bringing him back. They can't do that with a lot of extra players. I mean, they could bring CC Sabathia back for a show one time, but he's not really he's known for that one half season or whatever he played. And yeah, it was great, but he's not a well-known, I wouldn't consider him a Brewer, basically,
Yeah, and see, of course, Ben, who's about as biased as you can get, says, Dave will say anything bad about a Packer or Brewer. I just said, Ben, I know your ears don't work well. What did I say about Robin Yount, Paul Molitor? Those guys are legends. Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong. Did Robin Yount play for the Brewers?
I think he did for a couple of years. Yeah, a little bit.
Okay. A little dose of reality sometimes is tough to take in. I get it. Just like we'll transition into another little dose of reality. This one's going to hurt a little bit. What's going to happen here with Giannis? Because I'm getting bad vibes all around. Now he has another injury. He's out 4 to 6 weeks. The team has no heart. They have no hustle. They have no coaching. They have no leadership. They have no draft picks and they have no money. That's a bad combination. They probably have more dead money on their cap of players that are playing elsewhere than they do for their own team. And I think Giannis wants out, but I think because everybody knows, here's what I think. I think Giannis wants out because he doesn't see a path for this team to win anymore anytime soon in the next 5-6 years. And by the time they probably would be able to replenish things, he's going to be way past his prime. As much as that hurts me to say it, because I do believe in the last 20 years, he is probably the most legit superstar. And I'm talking about leadership, community, state leader of any of the Packers professional sport or the Wisconsin professional sports. I put Giannis number one, but that's just my opinion. I think he was that important to the state of Wisconsin. So it does hurt me a little bit to say this, but I think it's one of those situations where he wants to go, but he doesn't want to be the bad guy at the same time. He wants to make it so that they almost have to get rid of him. Because if you look at some of his interviews and some of his body language, he's not exactly saying I want out, but God, he's not making it seem like he wants to stay either. What do you think, Jeff? And I want to know from the viewers too.
So I think for Giannis, I mean, it would suck to see him go, but he really needs to. If he wants to win another ring, if he wants to finish out a season with Milwaukee or his career with Milwaukee, that's awesome. But he's got to realize that he's not going to win another ring or even have another sniff at it. I watched the games this week. Yesterday, at one point, they were down by 20 some points. They come storming back. They end up losing by 2. Monday, they were playing in Atlanta. They built a 23-point lead and then fell behind and had to win it late. So they were up and they were cruising, and all of a sudden they fall apart. And Giannis was limited to about 30 minutes, so he wasn't playing for parts of the second half. But man, he needs to, if he wants to win another ring, there's no doubt he's got to go somewhere else. And it's a shame for the Bucks, but if they're not bringing anybody in and they're content, I think they got their championship, a couple of years ago. So that's good. Once every 50 years, I guess is pretty awesome. So they've got their championship. Now they can just coast. I think Giannis should probably look elsewhere. If he wants to stay, that's great, but he's not going to win another ring.
I mean, honestly, yeah, it's tough. And Kurt says the Bucks screwed up after the championship when they didn't retool. Now, I'm gonna say this. I don't put the blame 100% on the Milwaukee Bucks. I put it at about 50-50 because the majority of these moves, if you don't think that Giannis had his hands all over the majority of those moves and a lot of them backfired, you don't fire 2 coaches, especially one that just won a championship, without your star player who is on a max contract signing off on it. That is just not how professional sports works. And I know a lot of you homers, I'm not saying names, a lot of you homers out there probably will just glaze right over that fact. But Giannis has his hands in the pie, man. Giannis has his hands all over a lot of these mistakes. I'm sorry to admit it, and I love Giannis. But I think it's almost getting – go ahead.
And he probably should. I mean, he should be considered because as far as a basketball team goes, you got 5 on the floor and how many, 5 reserves or whatever. There's only 10 people. So you need to make sure that you get that input from the players, I think, more so than you do for a baseball team, more so than you do for a football team that's 55 players on their roster. I think basketball is much more player driven, which is why you see, LeBron with his hands all over that Laker crap, I mean, that's just, crazy. I mean, he dictates whatever's going to happen with that team. So, but I think Giannis to a point had his hand in it, and for better or worse, some of those moves didn't work out, especially firing the coach after. And I think that was the downfall. That was the downfall. Then
that was the beginning of the end.
Yeah, they bring in Doc Rivers, who hasn't. I mean, this is his 3rd year, 2.5 year, 3rd year, just absolute garbage. They can't. He's the Matt LaFleur of basketball. They have no killer instinct. They have no killer instinct at all. When you blow a 23-point lead and then have to come back with 10 seconds left to win it. Come on, man. I mean, that's just a joke. That's just a joke.
I think it's gotten to the point where both sides, and the fans too, I know it's going to hurt, but once these mistakes started happening and all this money, all these players we had to send back away and we had to eat a lot of those, the only way to try and improve the roster is then to start spending your first-round draft picks. And they've done that so much now that they don't have a first-round draft pick for years, I don't believe. Now you're screwed. They have no money and no draft picks, and there's no way to undo any of that except for time. And unfortunately, I think we all need to kind of we need to come to terms with the only way that either side's going to end up doing anything positive in the next few years is you got to part ways. It's just one of those circles.
That's the only thing. I mean, they need to, if they're going to retool and rebuild, if you can get rid of Giannis now and get 3 or 4 players, some draft picks or whatever, that's what they're going to have to do. But should they wait and pass that, the point where he's no longer has that capital, then you're going to be screwed. So I don't know. It's a toss up either way.
And your son came on and said that you have no loyalty, that you should just move to Illinois. Why don't you, Dad? Well, then you would get to at least be part of a baseball team that tries to win a championship, and not just a summer of fun. They are the number 2 in the power rankings currently. No big deal. Anyways, let's move on to. I think this is one of the best NFL playoffs I was trying to think the other day, Jeff. Almost every game has come down to the wire, and it's been so fun to watch these games. Can you think of a better playoff season we've had anytime recent?
Not recently. All these games have been awesome. There's been a couple of blowouts. The Seahawks just handled the Niners last week. What was the other game? There was another game that was kind of a blowout too. But all the other games come down to the wire, and that's been some exciting football. You know what? I got to throw this out there because this just drives me up a wall. There's certain people that are messaging me constantly talking about rigged this, rigged that, refs this, refs that. It's all scripted. Shut the hell up.
You're talking about Bruno, aren't you?
If that's your view, don't watch. Don't watch, because it's idiotic. There's, at the beginning of the game, oh, look, these guys the refs are making these calls. This is who's going to win. Well, then what happens when they don't win? Well, what was your whole point? If it's rigged, why didn't the Packers win? Oh, they rigged it for the Bears. Well, why? Why would they rig it to the Bears just for them to lose the next week? You can go through. There are calls and there are plays that you think, there might have been some gambling issues going on there where, the score on a game here and there. But to say it's scripted like WWE, that's just idiotic. I mean, somebody pointed out one day that, oh, look at this. This is on the video. The announcer knew it was going to be a fumble before there was a fumble. And they had this video where Al Michael said, oh, and it looks like he fumbled. Okay, so it's like a half a second, and it said it looks like like he's reading it from a script. If the NFL is so stupid to hand their announcers scripts of the game, then that's just idiotic. Because no announcer is ever going to leave a script behind. No announcer is ever going to do this. I mean, that's just idiotic stupidity. There are biased announcers and all this and that. You can say all that, but as far as the games being rigged or scripted. No, sorry, man. Just, your team sucks, and they didn't deserve to win. If your first instinct is to say, well, it's the refs, your team sucks.
It's kind of like the fans we talked about to start the show, and it seems like it's a lot of like late 20, early 30-somethings where maybe whatever team they've rooted for has been good their whole lifetime, and all of a sudden they start maybe not being as good, and all of a sudden it has to be this. It has to be the refs are out against us. It has to be. That's what every other fan base has gone through. It's just you've never had to do it.
Go back to the Packer-Bear game. There was a hit on Love that wasn't called, and it was pretty blatant. I mean, I thought, and it was a helmet-to-helmet hit. It wasn't called. Okay. Well, did that change the outcome of the game? I doubt it. And if you look through the course of the entire game, there's other calls that went the Packers' way. So Yeah, bad things happen, and sometimes it looks like these refs, are pretty incompetent, and a lot of times they can be. But to sit there and say, oh, they allowed him to do this, allowed him to do that. Come on, man. That's just if that's your whole thing, stop watching the freaking game. Just give up. If you're going to blame every bad outcome on refereeing, stop watching. Just absolutely, just turn it off.
Jeff,
read a book.
Speaking of referees, did Angel Hernandez, did he die or is he just retired?
I think he's just retired.
Okay.
So
I don't want to say this if he did pass away because I know there was one of those umpires that passed away. So, anyways, we're saying this under the terms of we think he's still alive. Okay, and we know he retired. That we know. What do you think would happen if we took, let's say, let's make it realistic, a 16-year-old kid that knows a little bit about baseball and had him home plate, ump behind home plate, and then had Angel Hernandez do the same thing for the next game. And I wish I was joking. This is just an example. Which one do you think has the best chances of getting the highest percentage of strikes and balls correct? I wish I was joking. I'm just curious.
I'd take the kid. And this is the thing. This is the thing, too, with Angel. Yeah, I hate to keep talking about this guy, but he was so horrible, but I don't think he was biased. He sucked for everybody.
He was just really bad. He was just really bad.
Absolutely the worst. So if the Brewers got 3 calls in a game and the Cubs didn't get any, well, that might be, but the next game, the Cubs aren't going to get any calls. And it's because he sucks. He's not biased. He sucks.
Yeah, he was consistently inconsistent, we'll say.
Yeah. And, and that's what they should just, with the ABS system, they should just call that the Angel Hernandez system, because that's the main reason why that thing is coming into higher prevalence is because that guy could not figure out a strike zone, could not figure out anything.
Him and Joe West are the two guys. And I think Angel Hernandez was just flat out bad. I think Joe West knew what to do. He just liked to piss people off.
Yeah.
So those two guys were probably the two of the most memorable umpires out there, at least in the last probably 15 years. And then there's like Eric Gregg and some of those other guys were pretty well known too. But speaking of being bad no matter where he goes, Aaron Rodgers might have an opportunity to come back to Pittsburgh because he has a new coach. If he does come back, Mike McCarthy, it is rumored, has finalized a deal. Big Mike has finalized a deal to be the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I, for one, would love to see one last ride. I'm not joking. I think it would be interesting. I think both sides, with time and circumstances now that they've both gone through, I think both would appreciate each other a hell of a lot more than at the end of their last term together. What do you think about this whole situation? And number one, I guess let me ask you 2 parts. Do you think he's the right guy for this type of job? And number 2, how well do you see the two of them working together if it does happen? Because it makes a lot of sense to me while they're trying to bring that young kid. Who is that kid they drafted later in the draft? But they try and bring the young kid along because he's going to need a little bit of time. What do you think?
Well, I think McCarthy's a decent enough coach. I really do. I think he's a pretty good coach. He got any coach that goes to Dallas, that's just a career killer. So you can't judge anything that happened in Dallas. It was just, you got to fight Jerry. You got to fight all that crap. That's just not even worth it. Why anybody would take that job is just idiotic. So I'm really hoping that McCarthy does well. And that's his hometown. That's his home area. And he's going to really want to win. He's got tough shoes to fill. Tomlin was there 18 years. He never had a losing season.
But he also never won much. He never won anything either. So, I mean, it's a good situation. Yeah.
He got a Super Bowl. He has as many Super Bowls as Big Mike. So, but for Rodgers to come back, he might. But honestly, after the way he was just banged up last year, I can't really see him wanting to. 42 years old, and he's getting hammered every week. Unless they can guarantee, a better offensive line, better protection. I really don't see him coming back. Maybe he'd come back as a coach or a mentor or something, but I don't think that's in him.
No, he said he's going to disappear. Him and his fake wife are just going to disappear.
Yeah,
he doesn't want. What he said was he doesn't want anything to do with the media, even though he does a weekly talk show.
Yeah.
Does that make any sense to anybody? And
I would
please out
honestly,
there, if you are a Pittsburgh Steeler wife, or just friends with Aaron Rodgers, and you actually have a photo with his alleged wife, please email the show or find us on Twitter, because there has not been one confirmed in a full year now, one confirmed event that anybody has ever met his wife. So, Jeff, unless you know of some inside information that we don't.
No, I don't. I've just taken, he has a ring on, so I guess that's proof.
Yeah, that's proof. That wouldn't be the first time someone put a wedding ring on when they weren't married.
Honestly, I would really hope, if he does come back, I really hope he does well. And, I don't have anything bad to say about him. I don't. I thought he was a great quarterback. He got us a Super Bowl. It's the off the field crap that is kind of weird, but everybody's kind of weird off the field, in their personal life.
Wait, you mean he didn't win the MVP last year?
Oh, was that? Well, I'd have to confirm with Benny. Ask Ben. Ben, who was the MVP? Did they even announce an MVP? I don't think they did yet. But
maybe he'll still get it.
Rodgers still might have a chance, so I guess we can't speak yet. I don't think they announced any of that yet, right? That's coming up the week after the Super Bowl, or between the playoffs, the championship, and the Super Bowl. So there's still a possibility. Ben's holding out hope that A-Rod's going to come back and win that MVP for the year.
He said it's one wrong prediction. Also, if you were fast enough before we hit the beep their image button, Kurt got a little zing in there on Aaron Rodgers. You'll have to be fast enough to go back and look at the video, because I'm not going to put it back up. Kurt, behave yourself. Behave yourself. Yeah. Okay.
I'll have to go back. I missed it. I'll have to go back.
Yeah. You're gonna have to. You'll enjoy it, Jeff. All right. So on our way out here, predictions. I had the Patriots 2 years ago when the Titans fired him. I said Vrabel was gonna turn this team around, in year one. Now, did I see them going to the Super Bowl right away? Probably not, but I knew he'd make a huge impact. They went from winning 4 games the last 2 years, each of the last 2 years. They're 14 wins this season, and they're on the verge of going to the Super Bowl. I told you it was going to happen, though. Do you have any predictions of what you expect to see out of either game tomorrow, Jeff?
Well, I think the Patriots are going to win easily now that Nix is out, right? I mean, I don't even know who's playing, who's starting quarterback for.
Who's that kid? I know who it is. He used to be a backup in New England. His name's help us out, Benny. I know you're up to date on all the backups in football. Damn, what is his name? They've been talking about. Stidham, Jarrett Stidham.
Okay. Yeah. Even when you read his name, that doesn't even ring a bell. So he's going to have a heck of a game tomorrow against that defense. It's a tough defense to try to overcome. Could be a good game, but I don't see him winning. It looks like the Patriots, and I would have to say I really would like to see the Rams win. I don't know why. I don't really have a dog in the fight, but I would also, it's really dumb because I'd like to see Sam Darnold win just to rub it in Minnesota's face. That would just be hilarious. You dump the guy to go with your future, and what does he do? He takes another team.
Yeah,
and this one he took farther than he took Minnesota last year. So he's got a chance to go to the Super Bowl. And so that game, I really don't care who wins. I'm kind of pulling for each team. I like Matt Stafford and I like Sam Darnold. I guess if it came down to it, I want Sam Darnold just so I can laugh at Minnesota fan a little bit more. It just makes it that much easier. But either way, it's going to be kind of a Super Bowl. The Patriots and the Seahawks. Is that
man? I think the matchup I'm rooting for most is probably the Patriots and the Seahawks. I think that would be just a knockdown, drag out. absolute brawl.
Could be a good game, yeah.
Battle. I think that's going to make for the best Super Bowl matchup you can imagine. And honestly, if Bo Nix would have been healthy, what a crazy thing to break your ankle the second to last play. We'd have two
of all things.
If he did not get hurt, we'd have two pretty damn good conference championship games, which a lot of years is always that. I think the big thing we talked about parity. I think the reason this was one of the best playoffs in recent memory is you don't have the dominant teams anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not one or two teams you're like, holy God, the Eagles are going to run away with it, or who was the Chiefs are going to run away with it. You didn't have that this year, and I think that made for one of the best seasons in a really long time, and that's what the NFL wants. So
yeah, and it was really, every game has been close. Every game has been down to the wire, except for like the Seahawks-Niners game, and there was another blowout in there too. But they've been all good games, and hopefully it continues this weekend. We don't want to, it's championship weekend. Championship Sunday is pretty cool. You get the two big games, and sometimes these games are better than what the Super Bowl is going to be. And I'm going to throw this out there, and I keep throwing this out there. Nobody listens to me. Nobody cares, but I'm going to throw it out there again. I still think the conference championship losers need to play the following week before the Super Bowl. Call that the Pro Bowl, because there's a lot of times that the losers game would be a hell of a lot better. Throw a big pot of money out there, have it competitive, because the Pro Bowl is all but over. They don't even do that anymore. They just have flag football.
What about this? What if I like that idea. Let's go with this just as to end the show here. I like that idea. What if each team, so the Pro Bowlers are voted on by, let's say, the fans or the players or however they do it, and there's a list of guys, and what if there's a fantasy draft that those two coaches can draft like a team of players, a certain amount of players. They can keep so many players that are currently on their roster, but they can also add so many players from that list that got voted as Pro Bowlers. What do you think something like that would look like? Pretty cool or no?
That would be cool, but I don't think you'd ever see it happen, because they don't want to be playing extra if they're not. I think you stick it to the teams, and you have a halftime show with the Pro Bowlers that were voted get honored, or have the flag football like they're doing against the Pro Bowl teams.
So what if we stick with the teams you're talking about, and then have the voted in Pro Bowlers that aren't on either of those two teams do the skills competition for the weekend?
Yep, that would be perfect. That's what I think they should do.
Roger Goodell, we solved all your issues. We solved all your issues.
I've been saying that for the better part of 20 years. They need to, completely do away with the Pro Bowl, have the conference losers play the game, call it the Pro Bowl. It's going to be competitive. If you go back in history, there was a lot of times where they had games, the Packers, or the champion of the NFL would play a college all-star team, and they did certain things back in the 60s, 50s, 60s that would create a lot of interest. And I think a Pro Bowl game with the conference losers, a competitive game, the winning team wins X amount of dollars to make sure that it's competitive. It would be pretty cool, I think. But
I like that idea. Maybe I'll clip that idea and put it on the channel this week, and maybe Roger Goodell will notice. Now, you have to make me a deal that if you get flown out there to the NFL headquarters, you got to bring me with you, though.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. We'll even bring Benny.
No,
we'll even bring Benny out there.
Oh my God! Can you imagine what if he gets to meet his hero A-Rod? That would be wild, man. That would be wild. Free A-Rod, free Benny B. That would be, and we would have to get coverage of that. We would have to. We would have to hire interns just to shoot the camera footage, and we'd have to be a part of that. So Roger Goodell, if you love GM Jeff's idea, hit us up. We need four plane tickets on the private jet. We need 4 seats, and we'll make it happen. So, any last thoughts, Jeff, on our way out here? It was a fun show today.
Good show. No, I just it's going to be some interesting games tomorrow. Congratulations. Before we go out to the Indiana Hoosiers, that was incredible run, undefeated. The first modern team to do that, win a national championship with a 16-0 season. That's the most wins in college football history. Well, I guess the 1894 Yale team did the same thing, won 16 games, but it was incredible. The kid Mendoza is incredible, all he went through. So give it up for the Hoosiers, man. And what's really cool about that is that's a team that had the losingest record, losingest overall percentage of any college football team, and they go in 2 years, turn it around, and they're national champions. So it gives Bucky the Badgers hope. If they can get that right coach in there, that anything is possible.
I love it. And my last thought on the way out here is, how about Phillip Rivers interviewing to be the head coach of the Buffalo Bills? He had an official interview. Was it today or yesterday?
Really? I didn't hear that.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yep.
Really?
Yeah, legit. I think they're for whatever reason, his agent is doing a hell of a job, or he's blowing people away in interviews, or he has a reputation. Why not? Why not?
And then when Allen gets hurt, he can just throw himself in.
It would remind me of Roger Dorn from Major League 2 when he was the GM, and he had like a giveaway night for himself, and then he activated himself for the game or something like that.
I can see it happening.
Yeah. Hey, on that note, we'll leave you guys. Kurt thinks it's a joke. Kurt, it might sound like a joke, but it is official. He did interview to be head coach of the Buffalo Bills. Hey, we'll see you guys next week. Bring your ideas. Make sure you're sharing the shows with your buddies. Get your comments in there, even if you're watching it on a delay throughout the week. Make sure you check out our Bubblegum Cards video where we hit a couple of huge hits.
That was a good show yesterday.
A couple of huge hits. We'll keep doing that too. Maybe one day we'll get GM Jeff to break some cards with us too. Maybe we can I do have a Pittsburgh Pirate that's no longer on the team, that third baseman that you guys traded away last year. But I do have his autograph on a card. So maybe we could pull a Pirate, like a Paul Skeens or something like that. We can go after something like that. So.
And he probably won't be a Pirate much longer anyway. So
no. Well, you always have Andrew McCutcheon and Roberto Clemente.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, have a good week. I look forward to doing this again next week. Take care, Jeff.
All right. See you guys. Have a great weekend. Great week. Bye.
Enjoy.